Hello, my name is Byron, and I guarantee that you are more concerned and more worried about your brush control with painting Space Marine eye lenses than you need to be. Painting eyes and painting lenses is one of the things that I think is equally feared and hated because it's important. They're an important area of your model. They're a key focus area and they can look really cool. What we're going to do in this tutorial is I'm going to teach you about the size of brush to use, how much paint and how much dilution in with your paint to use. I've got a really good tip at the end. There's a final section kind of rounding things out and teaching you how not to overload your brush with either paint or dilution, which ends up with eye socket flooding. I'm going to cover the angle of approach, literally the angle to make it easier rather than just going and ruining it. We've all been there. So we're going to cover all of that along with paint selection. And then there's 4 steps. We're going to do a light side, a dark side, a little blend in the middle that does not have to be good at all. Don't worry about that. And all that's required as far as delicacy is concerned is 2 5-second processes, which are 1 line and 1 dot, and they instantly sell your result. Everything after that, including the glow under the eye, is easier than you'd think, and the entire tutorial and method is sequenced in a way whereby if you make mistakes, they're likely to be outside of the area that matters, and you'll just delete your mistakes as you go. I make mistakes in this tutorial and we show you how to fix them. Stick around until the end where I'll be announcing a competition and a previous competition winner, and any feedback you've got, any methods you've got, please pop them below, as well as questions or queries about future tutorials. Thank you very much for watching. Let's jump in. Okay, let's talk about brushes and paint. So I'm going to be using a 0 for this. Our brushes are excellent, they're straight, they won't go curly ever at the tips, and you'll know where you're putting the tip, which is what's important here. All about the tip, as normal. You do not want to oversaturate your brushes at any point in this process apart from maybe the base coat. The amount of paint that you have on the brush as well as its consistency is really important. That's one of the things that I think people go wrong with. It's also the direction from which you approach your model. So you're going to see me doing a lot of stuff where I'm basically kind of side on. I won't be doing this. That's going to make some of the steps easier. We'll do the messy stuff first, and then we'll have a few bits where we have to hold our breath and get it right, but there is going to be a few tricks that we have to make it more likely that we succeed in those steps. So on the left is a 0, on the right is a 1. I would recommend that you use, in terms of the sizes of ours, a 00, a 0, or a 1 for this. If you can use a bigger one, cool, but it's more likely to go wrong in terms of flooding with paint. You can see this is the length isn't that much more, but it's much fatter. There's a lot more volume here. It's about double the size actually in terms of how much paint it's going to hold. So the likelihood of more paint being held in here than you want and it kind of blobbing onto your eyes and ruining them is higher. The 0 is perfect for me because if you have a smaller brush, there is a much higher risk of tip drying. So if I were to grab a 00, this is quite an old and tired one. Again, you see there's a big difference in the size of those. Now, 00 is legendary. A lot of people love them for detail. If you want to use that, go for it. Just don't pause and wait between taking your paint and going to your model, because a smaller brush, the paint dries out faster on the tip. So yeah, for me, those are the reasons why 0 is perfect. And it does make a really big difference picking the right size for the task that you have in hand. Paints wise, see some channel regulars and some absolute legendary colors. We're going to be using some stronger paints that aren't GW, and they're going to be useful when needed. And then these two, they're not weak, but I wouldn't say they're strong paints. They're going to be good for glazing or for layering, and we're going to use both of those to our advantage. Make sure you shake both of them. Careful if you're using ultra mattes, these are mattes. Just don't add actual texture to your eye. And I'll show you, the very first thing I'll do will show you how to avoid beginning that, because if you start adding actual heaps of paint to your eye, you're only going to make it harder for you to paint. Okay, so whatever you need to do to get a really good, steady, firm grip with braced hands on your model, you should be doing. I've got something that I can get underneath, so my entire shape is really, really, really firm. That's going to help me have the best chance of decent brush control that I can in this situation. I'll be bracing off the thing that the head is held on. You could be pressing onto your model with these 2 fingers, but yeah, sometimes painting the head separately is going to help too. Optional first step. This will make your green go down a little bit brighter, but if you want to risk slightly less by doing less steps, then that's up to you. I'm going to show this because, primarily, this is a really good way to show how I will be approaching my eye, and I literally mean angle of approach. So you'll notice I don't have much paint on my brush. This is going to lower the risk of flooding. What we're going to be doing is aiming to just about hit the eye and be kind of wiping and stroking in front of it until I hit it. Hold breath. There we go. That is way harder on camera because I'm further away from my face than I'd like to be. And ideally I'd like to be really close to my face. Insert normal tank top close to face picture here. Let's have a look at the consistency of this paint. So it's not a weak paint. It's slightly dilute, but it's not like glazy or anything. And I've got a little bit on the tip of the brush. And really importantly, it is really ready to leave easily, but in a small amount. You have to have a good brush for this, guys. You need it to be strong and predictable. It can't be like super floppy. That won't help either. So again, picking the right size, because if it's longer, it'll be a little bit more floppy proportionally. You can't do everything from the same angle, so turn your mini around like I was saying to be able to get it from whatever angle is required. Okay, so moot green next. I'm just looking to hit the inside. Warp stone now. The other side, the back. All right, scary time now. I do our little line at the bottom. So this is the point where it makes the most sense to take the most time. Setting up your brush, testing it, making sure the paint is leaving predictably and in the quantity you want, which is not tons. For any of my lines, we go that well and that fine on the model. Hold breath. Bit too thick. Fix it by dabbing on some of our green and just kind of blotting it out until it's small enough. Same with the warp stone. Okay, white now. Exactly the same again. Really take care. Set up our brush as carefully as possible. Secret weapon, any shade. So I'm using a dark blue green one. I push this towards the back of the eye. This doesn't matter if it floods, as long as it doesn't flood on the wrong side. If you made any mistakes around the rim of the eye, you can fix it now, just blot it out. So you approach from below, and then you can just dab at it. So if you've gone outside the lines, you don't need to correct it until this point, and you just hide it. At the same time as you can shade your eye so it's darker towards the back. If your white step was just too strong, you can really thin down your green, your lightest green, or you could use a shade for this, whatever you're the most confident with. Take basically all of it off the brush. You can see there's nothing there. And then you just push it, do the opposite of what we did with the shade. So push it in the direction of your lightest bit. It needs to be thin. You can't have much off the brush, but that'll just push it towards green. I've overspilled there, mop it up. Cool, nearly there. We are a dot and some lighting away from being good. Right, the dot, most important bit, because this is going to show us where the eye stops in the dark. Get the angle right, decide exactly where you want to put it. I think that'll do for me. It's a little bit high, but with eyes, if it looks okay, sometimes you're best just stopping. And relax. It's all going to be okay. Relatively easy bit now. So we've got our warp stone, and then from below, we're just going to give him eyeshadow. So all the area that would be lit by this, we'll try to leave a black line between the eye and the glow. Not because it's realistic, but because it's nice. This is so much harder on camera, this bit. There we go. Do it a couple of times, to rush it. Okay, so it won't look super strong. That's okay, because we need to put a lighter bit on the side that's lighter. Easy. And if we need to darken the other side, again, it's not about needing control when you do this step because it's dark, and if it overspills, you won't really notice. So just like we did the back of the eye, you can push this towards the back of the section. And that is it. Look how much work that dot is doing now. And the fact that the glow underneath gets brighter towards the bit that the eye does, it just ties everything together. Really, you need to be steady for this bit, where you put the line in white, and the dot. But if this goes wrong, you can fix it. And if this goes wrong, you just put your dark paint over it and start again. Easy, or easier at least, it's still eyes. And now we have to paint the other side. Okay, the things that are happening when you paint eyes probably, and the thing that you absolutely need to avoid is setting up your brush wrong. So here is our brush, we've dipped it in water, I've blobbed it elsewhere. What's very common is this. People putting, I've exaggerated there, but that type of thing. That is gonna do one thing and one thing only, or two things, both of them are bad. You're gonna drop like a literal 3D blob. You see that actually sticks out? I don't know if you can zoom in on that, Ian. That's asking quite a lot. It's got its own texture. I've put down a little blob of thick paint off the end of my brush. I'm not actually that much in control of it because it's not flowing, it's just sat on there. I may as well be using a toothpick. The other thing you'll do is, this brush hasn't had water removed enough. Take your paint. All right, so I've got a really thick blob there. Terrible. Try and be careful. And now it's getting wetter, so it's gonna flood even more. Trying to hit my eye precisely, no, dead. Okay, do not wanna do that, we've all seen the memes. The correct process, make your brush wet, make sure it's clean, twist it out if you want, take some of the water off, set up your brush with paint that is ready to flow off, and then remove quite a lot of it and test it somewhere. Test it on your thumb. Obviously a lot of testing has happened. That is ready to leave, it's predictable, it's not too weak. Not too strong, and if I want to do dots, like teeny tiny dots, my brush will do it. If I repeat it, I can still do lines. That is what you're going for. You have to have a good brush that's straight, the paint is flowing out of well to do this. If you've got one little hair coming off the side like that, it doesn't matter. What matters is what is going on at the business end. If you do the blob thing, I'm gonna do a very exaggerated one now. You're gonna end up with something like this, right? See, that's literally sticking out. When you try and paint the shape of the eye, wherever you blobbed, you're gonna paint the blob instead. You just put down like a little rivet in the middle of your eye, and while you're trying to paint that eye's shape, this is gonna be there making your life hard, okay? So that's terrible, and then the, like the wet equivalent, the flooding, is also terrible. You're setting yourself up for failure if you do either of those. Good brush and just a tiny bit of care, 20 seconds setting it up, you'd be amazed what you can achieve, and it's a lot easier when you're not making your life harder, like kind of on purpose. All right, we are done. Respect the method and it will go better than you think, I promise. It's all about setting up the brush well, and as long as you got a good solid brush, I'm using a 0 here, things are gonna go better than you imagine, I think. Don't put too much paint on, don't put too much water on. Don't use a super strong paint and try and do a glaze. If you know that your paint is like a real like pigment badass, don't try and do something subtle with it when the paint does not want to do that, okay? That's why I've used these GW paints. Either one of those is a pigment badass. That is not a bad thing, sometimes it's a good thing, and very often it's an extremely helpful thing. Finally, we're gonna run a little bit of a promotion. So if you grab a single Artis Opus brush, we're gonna chuck in some stickers, and we'll also give you a little bit of a discount on the brush. So that'll be running on our website right now for a week until after the tutorial is done. Check out the other stuff that we've got on there. It's a brilliant way to support the channel. And if you have any questions or anything like that, let us know. The best suggestion for a future video below will receive a texture palette of your choosing, whatever size you like. I go for the biggest one, and a brush set for your choosing as well. No restriction there, up to any 5 brush set, whatever you like. Thank you very much for getting involved. Please like, comment, and subscribe, and we'll catch you in the next video.